Hi, I'm Tim Kinnaird, and I'm the owner and chef in Macarons and More in Norfolk. We make and sell macarons around Norfolk and also online. We've been going about 18 months. So today we're going to make some rose flavoured macarons. We're going to make 2 macaron shells delicately coloured with an extracted beetroot. Then we're going to fill them with a rose flavoured buttercream, perfect for Valentine's Day. I think bakers might want to do something like this because it's an elegant product. They're a bit of a fiddle to make. They're a bit complicated and take a little bit of time, but they, on the basis of the cost of the ingredients are fairly minimal. And you can really kind of demonstrate your kind of bakery skills of kind of getting them right, getting them perfect. So first of all, we're going to make the macaron shells. There's 2 components to that. There's a meringue and then a batter made out of ground almonds, icing sugar and egg white. There's 2 key differences between 2 different types of macarons. There's those made out of French meringue, so that's your traditional egg white whipped up with caster sugars if you're making a pavlova. What I use is an Italian meringue, so that's where we're going to whisk the egg white up with a hot sugar syrup, and I think that gives a more consistent sort of production of them, so you can control that element of it. I think that there's too much variation in macarons if you use the French meringue technique, and so I think the texture's better. First of all, we're going to make a batter with some ground almonds and icing sugar, so we've got equal quantities of ground almonds and icing sugar, and then we've got egg white, so we've got that split into equal quantities. 1/2 is going to go into the batter here, and then the other half we're going to use to make the meringue. We're going to add 10 mils of this, and you do need to be quite accurate in measuring out your colouring because there's nothing worse than producing macarons that look perfect and then you put them together with the batch you made the previous day and they're slightly different in colour because you've added slightly more or less. So that's the batter made with the ground almonds, icing sugar, colouring and egg white. Next thing we're going to do is make the Italian meringue.
Whisk 75 grams of egg whites. Then combine 200 grams of caster sugar and 47 grams of water in a pan.
And then we're going to heat that up to exactly 118 degrees and then pour it onto the whisking meringue. The sugar syrup and the egg white until you get to stiff peaks. A little bit off that's okay, but and also you want the temperature to come down, so it's put in 118. Come down to kind of around 40 or 50 degrees, so a little bit warmer than blood temperature, and I just do that by feeding the bowl. You want a little bit of retained heat in the meringue, because I think that helps kind of incorporate this with the other batter. A little bit of heat kind of melts the sugar, the icing sugar, and you've got the other mix. It comes together much better, you get a slightly better textured sort of shell on the outside, and just a little bit of heat there. So this is the final batter, and what you want is something that has the flows with the consistency of, as lots of people describe it as flowing like lava, so that when you lift it up it kind of drops back and runs, so it runs to form a nice flat level surface. So that means that when I pipe it onto the tray, the macaron batter is going to form a nice flat even layer. After you piped about 3 or 4 of these trays in a row, you get nice and consistent with the amount of batter that you're piping onto the circle. But I always use a template at least to start off, just to get my kind of eye in and get the consistency of the shape right. So we've got a bit of silicone paper with circles drawn on there, and then another blank bit of paper over the top. And each one of these circles is about 2 centimetres apart from its neighbour, and that gives it a little bit of room to expand and also allows the heat around the macarons. If you put them too closely together, the macarons in the centre of the tray don't seem to cook quite as well, and it can be a little bit difficult getting them off the baking parchment. You can also pipe them straight onto a silpat or a silicone mat. There's lots of different methods to baking macarons. Some will say for a relatively low temperature for sort of 20-22 minutes. Other recipes will be quite high, sort of 180 for 8 or 9 minutes. Because I use natural colourings, I go for somewhere in between. So if I put them at a really high heat, they'll brown and they'll lose their kind of nice fresh pink colour. So I've got the oven set at 150.
Remove from the oven and allow the shells to cool for 30 minutes off the tray.
So then for the filling of the rose macarons, I'm just going to make a simple buttercream. So I've got some unsalted butter here. I'm just going to beat that.
Add 200 grams of icing sugar in addition to rose water to taste, and then mix until smooth.
That's what a good macaron shells should look like. So you've got a nice smooth, flat, slightly glossy surface. And then the ruffled bit, what the French call the pieds or the foot of the macaron, should be approximately half the depth of the macaron shell. So you can see the ruffled bit there, the foot there, and then the shell, the smoother shell beginning. To give each macaron a good amount of filling. I find it easier, particularly with a slightly stiffer filling, to actually hold the shell itself. But you want a good kind of splodge in there, because it's what gives the macaron the flavour is the filling. The shells are more about kind of slight arm detail and the texture, and you just sandwich them together.